Welcome to the bold analysis. There is a dominant question I want to answer in this podcast. It is the question of what exactly is behind the change of heart among Kenya Kwanza team in respect to the bipartisan talks that started today. And I want to look at this matter in deep and explain what exactly could be happening behind the scene. Kindly subscribe to our channel, click the notification bell and like our video. Thank you very much for those who support and share our podcasts with your peers or even your colleagues. I don't take it for granted. I've always walked into some few offices and there is no single office I've always gotten into and someone doesn't know the Bold podcast. I'm just so grateful for that we are informing the nation. The team led by Kalonzo Musyoka on Azimio side and Kimani Ichung'wah met today, even though the meeting was a bit floppy because the usual theatrics, Kimani Ichung'wah brought up his usual theatrics by getting to that meeting late, allegedly saying that he was caught up in Nyeri over weather condition, and he got into that meeting late. But when someone informed me, when I read that, I said, it's the usual delaying tactics. It's the usual, cat and mouse game? Huh? It's the usual games, rat and mouse games, hide and seek games that Kenya Kwanza have been doing. In fact, some politicians behave as if they're the best thing that has happened in this country. And so he sent Cecil Mbarire, and we've gotten the official communication from them. After going to Mount Kenya and camping in Mount Kenya about anti-talks campaign, to the extent that Ndindi Nyoro even told the president to leave those talks, I've seen this other development that has emerged, that the bipartisan team is going now to operate in some 3 tiers. Now the 3 tier is going to be headed by a secretariat that is going to be formed. So both sides of the political divide, both Kenya Kwanza and Azimio la Umoja, are going to propose members to be part of that secretariat, and then the list will be taken to National Assembly, I don't know, under some amendment or some bill. Then from there, the secretariat will be formed. Then apart from the secretariat, the second tier will be the negotiation team. The negotiation team is where Kalonzo is leading Azimio side and Kimani Ichung'wah is leading government side. Then the last tier that will work with the two is a technical staff. So this, finally, one thing I've always been mentioning is that the talks needed to be institutionalized and taken seriously. No one would think that Kenya Kwanza would make a U-turn after spending 3 days in the mountain begging William Ruto to drop the bipartisan talks, only to walk into that meeting on Wednesday and agree for the 3 tier to be formed, for the talk to be structured in the 3 tiers, in the sense that they're going to offer support to the negotiation team. The other development, which is a loss, which Kenya Kwanza have actually been using to trivialize the meeting, is that they've also agreed that there's going to take some oath of secrecy, so that whatever is discussed in those talks will not get its way in the campaign, or rather in the public rallies in the weekends, because they want to communicate a solid decision. So when they are still discussing, they will stop or avoid divulging message or information to media about it. They've also agreed that unlike the call by Kenya Kwanza to trivialize the meeting by making them televised has also been dropped, and there is nothing like those talks going to be televised, or rather the media has been kept off the talks since they are going to be closed doors. There have been a lot of trivial messages that have been relayed in public in respect to bipartisan talks, with the ridiculous statements like let the talks be televised so that the Kenyan people can know what is going on. Now, the bipartisan team will then work closely with the secretariat and the technical staff. So as of what has been agreed is that they're going to make some TOR, terms of reference, and get the framework of the talks so that when they meet on Monday, they can start the talks. Monday next week, the talks are supposed to commence officially. Ladies and gentlemen, our good friend Duncan, let me not mention his second name, has just called me some few minutes when I was doing this research and asked me, what exactly has changed? Because we have always, or rather UDA supporters have always been treated to a narrative that we are not in a crisis, there is nothing going on, we don't have a problem, we don't want discussion, and we want the country to move on. But technically, things seems to have changed. They are my clear three interpretation of the U-turn. Number one, the talks is getting foreign support in terms of funding. Take that to bank and you can scoop some loan. Clearly, we were told, Kimani Ichung'wah said, that Kalonzo Musyoka should not even think of taking tea or any allowance, and that the talks are not going to be held in some posh hotel in Serena. But I remember, very serious talks have always been held in Bomas of Kenya. So after the venue was changed to Bomas of Kenya is very historic. For your information, Bomas of Kenya is a historic space because any constitutional review process that was done, when the books are written, the Bomas of Kenya as the venue always appears. The Bomas of Kenya is where IBC operates, so our election is a bit domiciled around Bomas of Kenya. So it is not a low-profile venue as what Kenya Kwanza would want. But the fact that we've been told of no funding, no chai, but ultimately we are agreeing to form secretariat, technical staff and the team. That means that if you have a technical staff, those guys are going to be paid. If you have the secretariat, those guys are going to be facilitated. So what does that mean? It clearly shows that it has gotten some foreign support. And the foreign support, and you see the way it has been structured, that's going to be approved in Parliament. The only way and the entry point of that foreign support, supporting the talks, is actually through the Parliament way. I can simply tell you that pesa ni sabuni ya roho, or money beats everything. The smoothening here and what has streamlined things is actually the question of funding. I remember when government side raised questions on how people should not expect allowances. I was smiling because I know they were directly hitting the President William Ruto about funding. The whole narrative about someone should not expect tea and some allowances was the question of, it was just another way of raising the funding question on this bipartisan talks. Number two, there could be a high likelihood that the talks could be happening above board. Let me say for the record, whatever is going to be agreed at those talks between Kalonzo Musyoka and Kimani Ichung'wah is not going to be arrived at without okay of Raila Odinga, Uhuru Kenyatta, and William Samoei Ruto. So the smoothening is a point of the talks is remote controlled at a higher table. And this borders what I've also said, that it could be getting some funding. What is clearly here is that there was some reverse psychology. When William Ruto went on top of the car and was shouting and making all the statements to run smear campaign about the talks, it was for the public consumption. but immediately gets back to the house and starts picking calls or making calls, the talks are above board. Lastly, Kenya Kwanza has been temporarily, and I'm using the word temporarily been disarmed of propaganda, because there have been endless appetite for propaganda, and that is the situation, that is the call, because if you start running smear campaign or propaganda narratives around what is being discussed, then from the terms of reference, you shall be showing no or zero commitment on the talks, because clearly it's one of the ways to jeopardize the talks. Sometimes you need the surprise element so that you keep people guessing what exactly it is or what exactly is going to turn out. You should also leave people guessing. So they have also decided that instead of running the smear campaign against the talks, they will hold the talks quietly, and that will disarm Kenya Kwanza of propaganda. Now, I said the word temporarily because I tend to have a feeling that the Secretariat is going to have a presentation from Kenya Kwanza and a representation from Azimio la Umoja. Same with the technical staff. So in that case, what do you expect? When the number, so long as it's been made that big, oh my goodness, the reports are going to get to the nation under the guise of person who didn't want to be named or anonymous. You know, there's going to be some anonymous reporter who is going to leak these things. But I think with an agreement that no insider should call press briefing to run smear campaign against the talks, it's the best way to start. The catch in this podcast is this: the talks have received a foreign backing against the no crisis crusade by Kenya Kwanza. Let's meet in the next.